Hello, all the friends of Some Expert. We'll talk about what's coming in 2026 in regards to Microsoft licensing. What to expect, what's changing, what trends you may have missed, what trends you shouldn't miss at all, because it is changing. My name is Alexander Golov, and I'm the head of consulting and services. And Some Expert, we're not going to talk about us today. We're going to talk about what's going on with Microsoft and about you. A bit of housekeeping. Please ask questions. It's live. If you want to appear on camera, we're doing this for the first time, message me via LinkedIn, not anyhow else, via LinkedIn, and I'll send you a join link. Let's experiment with that. And I want to go back to the subject of today's conversation and straight jump into the thick of it. Microsoft has always been finding, as a commercial company, it's not just a technology company, it's a commercial company. Microsoft has always been finding creative ways to extract revenue from their end clients. And there's a whole history of Microsoft licensing that proves that they started from servers, they moved to processor licensing, then to core licensing, each time increasing revenue per core, per user when they switched to Microsoft 365, and now we're getting into the area when average revenue per user is no more scalable because the population of Earth is not growing at the same rate as Microsoft would like to grow, to its revenue to grow. So now we're going into the age of AI and average revenue per agent, average revenue per AI, and it explains a lot. But I wanted to talk more about what happened in 2025 and traditional licensing changes until somebody yesterday dropped a bomb on me when they said, it's a trusted source. I didn't verify this, so apologies if I'll be a little bit imprecise, but it's a trusted source. They said that Microsoft said to the UK CMA, Competition and Market Authority, to dismiss cases against them, cases about unfair licensing practices, on the basis of software will soon be obsolete and it'll all be AI. That's what they said. Don't pester us with your fair licensing practices. It'll be AI soon, and nobody's going to care about licenses. That is the vision that they expressed to the UK CMA. I hope it's, again, it's a trusted source. I need to check this because I only learned about it yesterday. On the other hand, Satya Nadella last week in his podcast interview said that it's not going to be average revenue per agent. It's going to be revenue per user plus revenue per agent. And a friend of ours, Yuki Niranen, he wrote in his blog that, in his view, and I support that view, Microsoft has always been finding ways to actually create hybrid models, revenue models, not even licensing models. We can actually stop talking about Microsoft licensing soon because it's now Microsoft spend on your side or Microsoft revenue on their side. So Microsoft has been finding creative ways to combine the traditional licensing and revenue models with the new world. They've always been somehow there. So licensing will not, in our view, disappear entirely, as much as enthusiastic people in Microsoft may wish it to happen. That's a big company still. Still, this change of the paradigm, desired paradigm of everything's going to be AI and will all probably be in consumption models, not anymore licensing models. It may explain, in addition to Microsoft's very firm position financially at growing revenues at exorbitant rates, it may explain the aggressive transformation of traditional licensing, which is still happening. We still have the licensing. It's not simplifying. It's getting more and more complicated, and each year it escalates more and more. So we thought 2024/2025 transition was painful enough. I'll walk you through what happened in this year, if you missed those news. It's even faster. It's even more overwhelming these days. So tiny licensing changes in the licensing rules and massive shifts in how Microsoft extracts revenue. Massive shifts. Then It also can explain, because this is where we're going to, and it didn't happen yesterday, by the way. It's been happening in the last 10 years. A very visual shift from pure transactional licensing to we're selling value, we're selling solutions. And I don't want to judge that. It's a great sales model. It's very difficult to negotiate against that sales model because you're not dealing with transactional licensing. And it's just here. It's a reality. Microsoft sells value. Microsoft sells solutions. Microsoft doesn't sell licenses anymore, which complicates our relationship with them, complicates negotiations, complicates procurement significantly. Move towards consumption models. Azure taking over 50% in companies' budgets. That is happening, and that is accelerating. It's not slowing down. We actually predicted a slowdown in 2025. The reality is it did not happen. And it's not even a transition from on-premise to Azure. It's on-premise staying almost the same, except for the server part, and Azure growing. So the other important shift, and this is where I start talking about what happened in 2025. November last year, Microsoft said we're going to start migrating selected clients from enterprise agreements to CSP and MCAE, which is effectively the same models. Not new as well, but maybe new for large corporations that are used to enterprise agreements. CSP is an indirect model through Microsoft partners where, again, license sales are replaced with solution sales, because CSPs are supposed to sell you value. CSPs are supposed to sell you service. They're like MSPs, managed service providers. It doesn't exactly work that way, but that's the target model. MCAE is the similar agreement as CSP, but with Microsoft directly. And I will walk you through some of the necessary details that you need to know if you work in procurement or license management. I will explain them today when we get to that particular point in today's live stream. And by the way, remind you, live stream, questions. Ask your questions, send your messages, send your news. If you're watching these days, if you're watching Microsoft's conference, you may have questions, ask them. It's a pretty interesting conversation. And we're going to talk about Agent 365 today as well. So yeah, CSP model. It's designed to shift the mindset from what licenses do I need to what services will help my business. And with the shift from EA, more and more companies will be pushed to adopt it, because Microsoft still renews enterprise agreements, but more and more reluctantly, I would say. If there's no case for you to keep your enterprise agreement, if you are a good case for CSP, there's nothing holding you on an EA, you'll have a very long conversation with the Microsoft salespeople. Plus, we are now dealing with modular licensing models more and more. And let me explain what is a modular licensing model. I tried to find an allegory, some kind of reference in real life what it is. It's a multi-layered cake. It's a Christmas tree of licensing, and it's not a Russian doll. But imagine it this way. A licensing portfolio today with Microsoft consists of, and I'm not even talking about Azure, consists of per user licenses, majority of the budget, it's your Microsoft 365, premium add-ons, because E5 is not all-inclusive, as much as Microsoft positioned it as all-inclusive. There were 64 add-ons in 2024. I don't know the current number, but it's huge. So, plus, in addition to that, Copilot, that if you want to adopt AI, you buy Copilot. If you want to adopt AI from the Microsoft ecosystem, additional agents modules, additional consumption metrics in cloud, in the Copilot Studio, agents now, where licensing hasn't been clarified, regardless of what Microsoft published and retracted previous week. They didn't provide any clarity in the keynote about how agents will be licensed. But our expectations is there's going to be a license per agent, because they're a user in the Entra ID, in your what used to be Active Directory, and we expect that to have to require a license, plus whatever AI resources is going to consume, plus the cost of an agent, plus the costs of third-party agents like from ServiceNow, which were in that retracted announcement. Fun. We have a comment in regards to what I just said from Robert, saying, we found having some on-prem licenses keeps us on the EA. We have RDP licensing in our EA, which is not available from CSP. Yes, it's one of the reasons. You can still keep yourselves on an enterprise agreement. Yeah, or that there's something that cannot be delivered via CSP or MCAE. You'll keep your EA still. Slowly but surely, Microsoft is adjusting CSP to conform with what EA can deliver. On the other hand, they're retracting EA features that are holding you down on EA. So it's a two-way movement towards finally convincing every client to switch to CSP, which is also, speaking about modular licensing and modular models, it complicates everything. Because enterprise agreements were for purchasing departments, for procurement, still a struggle, but they had a specific rhythm. They still exist. They still have that specific rhythm. You sign an agreement for a 3 or a 5 year term, and you know that after 3 or 5 years you need to renew it. Then you have annual true-up events where you realign your payments with the licenses you actually consume. I'm simplifying this, but it's roughly what that is. And that's it. You have those terms, you have spread payments, licenses are bought for the entirety of the agreement. Sometimes there are some licenses are allowed, actually, despite the popular misconception, to be reduced. Online services can be reduced down to minimums, but still they can be reduced. And I hope you can hear me, by the way, because something just happened on my computer that may have dropped the call. So, sorry, I was just interrupted by an international call that I can't pick up because it's a live event, as I said. And talking about the enterprise agreements. Yep, you can still buy them. CSP, this is what I was trying to say. CSP is a combination of different subscriptions. It's an evergreen agreement. So you can have annual subscriptions. You can have 3-year subscriptions. You can have monthly subscriptions. You can have them via different CSPs. You can have them via you can have the same product on different types of subscriptions. They are not necessarily co-termed. You need to micromanage them to co-term them. The way the mechanisms work for, charging you for prorated licenses are very interesting. The way price fixes work in the context of one subscription, but you still have the currency fluctuations. It's 100 times more complicated ecosystem than enterprise agreement. And the upside is many CSPs. I did a research with multiple AIs and myself around what's written about CSP, and lots of CSPs still publish outdated information from the times when CSP was actually truly flexible and you could reduce licenses on a monthly basis. It's not true anymore, and unfortunately, there's so much incorrect, I'm putting it in a very polite way, incorrect information about CSP, so it's very difficult to actually find the truthful information, which is not commercially biased. You have to ask people like us who don't sell licenses to actually get that truthful information, because we don't sell licenses, we're not biased. So that agreement is effectively modular because you can almost get like a Lego with different pieces, drop in what you want. Yes, it's flexible, less flexible than it used to be. Yes, it's more flexible than an enterprise agreement, but I don't even want to compare them in terms of what's better. They're just different. And it's CSP and MCA is not an evolution of the enterprise agreement. And this is what is going to be pushed even more actively, more proactively in 2026. So get ready for it and start learning about the and use different sources, dependent, independent, biased, unbiased. Just gather the information. Educate yourselves. It's coming. In regards to how Microsoft sells, Microsoft probably not a secret for anybody who's been in this world for ages, for years, but always an eye-opener for those who haven't been yet introduced to the fantastic world of Microsoft revenue extraction. Their salespeople don't get rewarded exactly the same for all the products, and they have so-called scorecard products that go on their scorecard, that affect their bonuses, that affect their even job positions. You can get fired if you don't miss your, as in any corporation, you don't miss your sales target, you get fired. Or move to a less favorable position, but probably fired. They have scorecard products. I was told recently, because we always talk to people on the other side, that the only scorecard products in some of the regions is Copilot. I wouldn't say Copilot, the only word, because Copilot, there are different Copilots. GitHub Copilot, Microsoft 365 Copilot, other Copilots. It's a massive marketing word, but it's not necessarily just one product. But anyway, Copilots are scorecard products and AI and nothing else. Not even Microsoft 365 E5, which was a big deal. It has been a big deal for many years, at least 5 years. Not anymore. So don't get surprised that each deal will have, each conversation will have to include Copilot, more or less. And don't be surprised when you don't increase your Copilot licensing base or decrease it, God forbid, or you don't just want to talk about Copilot, that the conversation suddenly becomes boring and discussing any other incentives, any other commercial improvements to the default agreement suddenly becomes almost non-existent, and you have to take the deal as is, take it or leave it. So yeah, again, big change. AI agents, as I mentioned, new revenue model beyond user licenses, average revenue per agent, on top of average revenue per user if we trust Satya Nadella. So traditional average revenue per user plus average revenue per agent. What it's going to become as a metric in Microsoft's reports, well, we're going to see in a year or two, we're going to see what it's going to be. So let's watch this very closely. Maybe even faster, because the changes are becoming, the cycle is becoming shorter and shorter and shorter. The other thing that changed, which I think you already heard about it. I think it's not news anymore. Everybody's just been shouting about it for months. If you are surprised, I am surprised that you're surprised. Microsoft used to provide, in an enterprise agreement ecosystem, only in that ecosystem, used to provide predefined volume discounts. The bigger your company is, the bigger is your discount. They're gone. They're still there on traditional licenses, but traditional licenses, server licenses, in the current world, in the IT budgets, account for about 5 to 10% only. The rest are online services. And for online services, those volume discounts are gone. Understandable, by the way, because Microsoft can discount licenses down to zero. There's no infrastructure to produce a license. It's just a license. Whereas when it's an online service, there is infrastructure, there's storage, there's traffic, there are actual costs that Microsoft has to cover to provide you with that account. So they decided, you know what, we're going to stop doing this. Our competition doesn't do this. We can talk about moral aspects of this and whether that's a good business move or bad business move, whether it's easier now. It's actually harder to get a similar discount from Microsoft, because now it's, even if they provide a discount, which we see examples of that, is presented as we predicted, is presented as a gesture of goodwill. So previously you had that off your price list. You didn't have to ask for it. You could ask for something else. Now your first ask is, can we actually still pay the old prices for E5? And they might say, yeah, good. And that leaves you smaller room for other negotiations, let me put it this way. Which is, again, expected, predicted, not rocket science, but get ready for it. If your renewal is this year, next year, unfortunately, since we're past the 1st of November, I would say it's still possible to ask for previous prices. But obviously, as the days go by, it's today is 19th of November 2025. I had to look it up on my screen. We're already 19 days past the cutoff date, after which even early renewals don't save you from increased prices. And a company of 24,000 users would pay $2 million more per year if they don't negotiate that discount back. So, $2 million. I'm talking in dollars now. Enterprise agreement to MCAE transition seems to be the same products, seems to be same services. They're not. Terms and conditions are slightly different. Plus, certain packages cannot be migrated to CSP or MCAE. So you have to accept a new licensing paradigm. You can't renew your old licenses with software assurance. M365 packages have different terms and conditions and different bundling, slightly, very tinily. It still accounts for 10 to 30% cost increase just by accepting the new paradigm and saying, okay, fine, we'll go to MCAE. Almost inevitable. As for negotiations, you can negotiate the same price for the first year, but not forever. You're not going to keep it in the second year, or you're absolutely not going to keep it in the third years. So your prices will maybe not jump, but slowly crawl back to where Microsoft wants them to be. And in total, it affects budgets this year by 20 to 30% on average. That is post-negotiation. That is the worst thing, post-negotiation. So Microsoft budgets compared to 3 years ago, not to the previous year, to 3 years ago, are 20 to 30% higher post-negotiation. So, difficult. The old licensing model, let's talk about some of these items in more details. And I have a long list of referring points I want to talk about today. So please ask your questions. I want to be driven by your feedback as well. It used to work buy more licenses, pay less per unit. It used to be that there were bundled suites. I wanted to say we all understood, not necessarily. When we had the so-called enterprise platform, it was still widely misunderstood, but it was much simpler that we're dealing with today. There were just two packages. Nowadays, you have to go to websites like m365maps.com to download those huge Excel spreadsheets to see how bundles are packaged in the Microsoft's online services ecosystem. It's not easy anymore. Still, there were bundled suites that you could easily understand, sort of easily compared to today. There were strategic agreements, static, sign once, stay with it for 3 years, then true up on an annual basis, and then the traditional relationship with how many licenses, which is changing to, first of all, commitments. What is a commitment? This is I love the term negotiated commitments. What does it mean? Have you ever thought about it? Negotiated commitments. What is a commitment? You promise Microsoft, we're going to spend $100 million per year on Azure and Azure Marketplace, whatever, the eligible Azure products. You didn't actually negotiate a discount on the actual products. You just negotiated a discount on whatever you consume in that commitment. Moreover, you promised Microsoft that you're going to spend that amount of money with all the products that you get through it at discounted levels. Do you have the same level of control around what products you will actually consume? It's very difficult. So I spoke this year to about 20, not many, about 20 different procurement managers, and only 2 of them actually managed to demonstrate to me a system that works in procurement that protects procurement from wasting money on Azure. Otherwise, you basically agreed to spend a certain amount of money on Azure, but didn't agree on what you're going to spend it. You gave it to your IT architects, and good if you have good FinOps people and IT architects. We still find that wastage on Azure is on average 30 to 50%. It's staggering. It sounds like bullshit. I'm sorry, it does sound like bullshit. Unbelievable. CIOs listening to this thinking, I can't be wasting that much money. You want to bet? So negotiating commitments doesn't protect an organization from overspending. It reduces it doesn't even reduce the amount of money you have to spend if you don't have a particular plan and actual numbers that you can stick to and actually can stick to, because pay-as-you-go models are exactly that, pay-as-you-go, which is where this average revenue per agent or average revenue per user is moving to. Because it's one thing to have Microsoft 365 E5 per user. Same thing to have Microsoft 365 and basic Copilot package, $30 per user per month. Per user. Fixed price. You know the number of users. You can negotiate the discount. But then they start committing something that goes beyond those fixed prices. And then you have to deal with whatever they call tokens, messages, credits, pay-as-you-go items for the functionality users require. And not just the IT department, not just in the centralized manner. It sprawls. Where is the control? We have to effectively move away from this whole illusion of control to the realization of we lost it in the traditional sense and start implementing new systems using FinOps as a basis. FinOps is not cost savings. FinOps is not a medicine. I forgot the name, but that can fix any cure. But it's a good base, it's good practice. If you're completely lost on where to start, talk to FinOps people. And these are Microsoft priorities, obviously. I mean, we're all watching closely right now all the keynotes and all the presentations what's currently happening at Ignite. But there's nothing in terms of extraordinary in that regard. We all understand that they're not moving away from the premium add-ons model, which grew from 14 in 2019 to 64 in 2024, and still growing. Why would they? It's a good upsale. You think you bought everything. You think you have your users on the top model, on the top package, and then they come back and say, by the way, do you actually also want to track this activity? There's a nice premium add-on. Or do you want to select who can come to your public webinars? That's Teams Premium, which, for example, I consume because I want to select who comes to the webinars that we host, not on LinkedIn, not on YouTube, but on our own Teams platform. So it's an additional payment. Evergreen contracts, continuous subscription adjustments, continuous subscription adjustments. So this is the reality. This is what we should expect in 2026. We should expect it to be exaggerated, and Agent 365 is still an unknown. Still a very much unknown. Let me go through some of the key points. I have some of the key points here in front of me, so don't forget. There's a lot to cover. There's a lot to unpack. Actually, 1 hour is not enough So I'm skipping through some of my notes for today's live. Unfortunately, Daryl couldn't join. If you know Daryl, if you've been to our lives before, you know Daryl is my business partner. He's not feeling well, so please send him your wishes of good health so he gets better, because he's rather unwell, unfortunately, today, and he couldn't join. I asked him whether he can find the last resources in his body, and he asked me politely to do this live without him. So put me on the spot, not the first time. It's okay. And in the meanwhile, please ask your questions if you have any. I'm sure you do, but if you think the question is, by the way, if you think the question is too private to ask publicly, so I put it on screen. There are DMs on LinkedIn, and I can see that right now 5 times more people watch this live on LinkedIn than on YouTube. So, but anyway, both these platforms have chat capabilities. Let's talk about how you, because we've passed through a half an hour check point. Let's talk about what we can do about it. I already started kind of dropping in ideas. Microsoft operates in certain cycles. Nothing happens out of the blue. There's something brewing internally. There are some telltale signs. Lots of the information is under very strict NDAs. You will never know it, even if you're a close partner. They somehow they manage to close leaks, but I think these days this cycle will start shortening, and especially if you migrate to MCA model, your traditional prep cycle, we're going to have renewal in 3 years. It's almost gone. So you need to relearn how to be in a consistent, at least annual preparation cycle. You need to always. And yes, it means more spend on management of licenses. Unfortunately, it does. Or your ongoing costs. There's no way around it. Or you'll be just paying and not knowing, accepting just the cost at face value without that. So you will need to practically in real time learn to manage Microsoft licensing. And Microsoft is probably the pioneers in this space. I don't know any other company that does it at the same rate. So companies like Oracle, even with cloud, are still somehow, and IBM, still somehow operate in the old paradigm of licenses. Microsoft license management becomes more real time. And I'm not even saying FinOps, but it is close to FinOps. You need to start thinking about not what we're going to do in 3 years in the next renewal. You need to start thinking what you're going to do in 6 or 12 months. Have very good strategy. Have very good controls about how you spend the commitments. You committed to Azure. How do you actually spend it? Do you have tools to prevent purchasing things that are low quality? Do you have internal ratings around marketplace items? White lists. It doesn't go through testing. How quickly can you react to sudden price spikes? Some of the mistakes are almost inevitable, and because they're triggered by external events. Some of the spend. How quickly can you stop the leak? If, for example, somebody starts DDoSing you, and it increases your traffic for which you pay. Bad example, but see what I mean. So it doesn't always depend just on you. It may be external factors. Or an error by a developer that suddenly starts saving all the logs into some kind of log storage in some kind of cloud, hypothetical cloud. How quickly can you find out that is increasing your costs by, I don't know, $11,000 per minute, as happened last year with some company. The discounts are declining on EAs, to also be prepared for that. And I think we unfortunately, I want to say about this, we unfortunately got a bit complacent in the previous years when Microsoft started shifting us from license sales to value sales. But we're still in that transition period when everybody stopped optimizing. I'm saying everybody. When I say everybody, obviously take it with a pinch of salt. It doesn't mean like 100% of the companies, but the majority stopped optimizing. Because the subtle offer was, don't optimize. We'll negotiate a good price. Before you adopt, you're going to get a good price. When you adopt, we'll reconvene and talk again. And the art of optimization almost died. Now, Microsoft's revenue grows 30% year on year, roughly. Don't trust me. Check the numbers online. They're roughly in that area. How do you think that happens? It happens by you paying more and more. Can you stop using Microsoft? I would love to see more and more alternatives to Microsoft. I would love to see companies adopting open source. I would love to see competition emerging, because Microsoft is too complacent. They're too arrogant. The discounts went down from, 35% discount wasn't unthinkable a few years ago. It is unthinkable now. You're not going to get it, even with fantastic negotiation. So we need to start going back to optimizing, because probably your business cannot survive without Microsoft. Probably for your business, it'll be almost impossible to get rid of Microsoft's online services. That's so ingrained in what you do right now, and any move would cost you even more. But you still want to stop costs from spiraling, as much as I don't like that word. How do you do this? You start actually checking, finally going back to optimization, ongoing optimization, daily optimization, with maybe investing in tools, maybe investing in some basic tools. Be, though, very clever about the tools you're choosing. Because with the cloud consumption management tools, unfortunately, there's a trend in their licensing, which I don't like at all. They're not, first of all, they're not cloud cost saving or cloud cost monitoring. They're cloud cost management or even cloud management tools. And they charge you as a percentage of your cloud spend. How many of those salespeople that sell you that tool, or companies that develop that tool, that sit on that model, revenue model, are genuinely, not proclaiming, genuinely interested in reducing your spend if they charge a percent of that spend? Imagine all their client base suddenly reduce their Azure cost by 30%. With commitments in mind, because you can only reduce down to your commitment, they will lose 30% of revenue. For a business, losing 30% of revenue is a suicide. I don't believe in that licensing model, and I will be very cautious with that as well. Understand the modular approach of Microsoft licensing. Try to learn about it. Whatever you knew about Microsoft licensing, I have to relearn it. I used to teach Microsoft their own licensing. I have to relearn licensing in 2025, completely almost from scratch, because it's so new. It's so new. The paradigms are different. The concepts are different. The licensing trainings were published on our channels a few years ago. They're still valid, but they don't cover new paradigms like Power Apps, Power Platform, Copilots, agents. It's all different, and it's very convoluted as well. And I don't want to say deliberate. It's a bad marketing message. Microsoft deliberately made everything convoluted. Everybody says that. No, it's just a product of where this is all going. All this complexity of licensing it's a product of it. I wouldn't say it's a convoluted. Think about it, on purpose. They want to keep revenue per client, per user. They want to have revenue per user for add-ons and new products like Copilot, but basic products. Then for the products that where you can't predict, even they can't predict how much compute it will consume on the cloud, they introduce pay-as-you-go models. But all in all, it is a complexity we're dealing with. So optimize, monitor. These are the key words. Challenge whether you really want to remain on E5. We're seeing actually organizations migrating back from E5, and since it's no more a scorecard products, actually the negative effect is not as bad. It's still bad. It's not a good news for your Microsoft sales representative. They will be upset if you migrate your users off E5. But this is happening. This is the reality of 2025, and we expect that to happen even more frequent in 2026, when organizations realize that they don't need all those security add-ons and additional functionality provided by E5. Microsoft is trying to make it more sticky. Microsoft basically made E5 prerequisite for something that is really, really shiny and interesting, like agentic AI. Will probably all require E5. And you have a 3, sorry, you're not getting agentic AI. It's a possibility that may happen. Challenge the value claims. If you saw the value, especially prepare your, in negotiations, prepare your C-level, that they will be approached by Microsoft representatives selling value and saying, mate, your competition, they may say, mate, they may say, dear sir, your competition already uses this shiny technology, and the moment you will be ready to adopt new Copilot flavor, they will be already using it in production. There's a lot of formal sales in that regard, not just value. Prepare your vulnerable people at the C-level, at the board level, that may be approached by similar people from Microsoft. I mean, I've seen meetings arranged with Satya Nadella himself. Prepare them to protect themselves from impulsive decisions, because that may just wreck the whole negotiation strategy. It's their business. If it's their business, I mean, it's their money. But then, to be honest, from my point of view, it's stupid. Jumping into impulsive decisions that cost tens of millions. When it comes to Azure and Microsoft commitments, again, optimize before committing. Azure optimization, so we save, and as much as it may sound unrealistic, and I've heard people this week complaining to me saying, you're claiming 30% savings, we don't trust it, we think it's BS. Yes, on average, it's a 30% saving. It's not a first day win, but in the course of 6 to 12 months, we can get you to the point when you'll be paying 30% less. Therefore, before you commit, so you don't overcommit, optimize, or at least assess where you're inoptimal, to understand where your actual commitment should be. And then my personal advice is, then reduce that number further. Under-committing is better, because then you have wiggle room. Over-committing means you have to stick to what you promised. And you almost have no way back. I mean, there is a way back, but there'll be penalties incurred. You'll still have to pay that money. You won't get certain discounts. So why would you under-commit? Sorry, underuse when you committed. Therefore, you need realistic consumption for forecasting. It's a must. It's completely. I don't know whether do I need to explain that. I think I just need to declare it that it's self-explanatory. So what to expect in 2026 in terms of money? In terms of the money you will have to pay to Microsoft. First of all, if your EA is up for renewable, what I say about 10%, 20% annual increase, it's going to hit you for the entirety of the 3 years. So everything that changed in the Microsoft world, when they removed level discounts, they increased prices on certain products, there's a whole list in the last 3 years. So this will all come into your renewable. They repackaged products, new bundles will come into your renewable. So all that cumulative effect of many, many years, get ready for it. I predict budget increase 20% minimum, post-negotiation 30% more realistic, unless you optimize. Just get ready for it. Prepare your commercials. If you're paying right now £9 million, just had this conversation. If you're paying right now £9 million per year for your Microsoft Enterprise Agreement, comes the renewal, it's not going to be $9 million. The procurement person I talked to has a target from the CFO to keep it at $9 million. It's not going to happen. Open your eyes. take off your rose-tinted glasses. Be realistic. It's not going to happen. A 9 million EA will become at least 11 million. I would say the first conversation will be in the range of 12 or 13 million. That is the reality. That is, and it's just because things change. Not just because Copilot will be added. Actually, Copilot, if you look at how much it takes in the budgets, unless you deploy it company-wide, it's not that such a massive increase. Then you will probably want to take Copilot. Well, welcome, another 10% increase at least. If you don't take it for the entire user base. Teams was unbundled and rebundled. Unfortunately, it was rebundled before your next renewal, hopefully. So, and those of you who are coming back, so who had to take unbundled Teams, you have an option now. Talk to your licensing resellers to bundle it back, reducing your costs. So, especially in the EU, I think EU has much more flexibility than any other countries, as far as I'm concerned. Don't want to go into nitty-gritty details. It will probably require an additional video or an additional article. And we had published it already in deep details on SAMexpert.com. We have hundreds of articles. So yeah, feel free to go there and read them. So that's it. A bit all over the place. I'm pretty sure we will repeat this conversation together with Daryl, who's our chief negotiation officer. He knows more about negotiations and he has lots of tricks up his sleeve in January. When he gets, hopefully he gets better tomorrow, but hopefully he'll get better by January, so 100%. And if you have any further questions, you can find me on LinkedIn, you can find me on YouTube. We have people in various countries, and we can discuss your situation with you. The QR code is here. This is our website. And yeah, with all that, I hope I didn't scare you much. I tried to explain what's happening in large brush strokes. And on that note, I wish you a very good, productive rest of the week. And we'll see you soon back on our channels and on LinkedIn. Take care.